We have two young men from Reimer CLC that's going to be doing our pledge tonight. Gabe is the first grader student at Reimer CLC, and the older brother of Ben is the third grader. Their mom and dad are Renee and Paul Juliet, who are quick to help out at school. According to mine, Gabe is a real little prankster who whines over not doing the dishes, does well at home and at school, is working hard to earn his Tiger badge in Scouts. He wants to be a train engineer when he grows up. He is currently participating in basketball camp. And Ben, he also does not like doing the dishes. He does very well at home and school. He is a great big brother for Gabe. He is working to earn his Bear badge in Scouts. He wants to be a paleologist, and a marine, pardon me? Paleontologist, I'm sorry, paleontologist, thank you. And a marine biologist when he grows up. He is also participating in basketball camp. Their principal says they are two wonderful little young men. We both come up and do the pledge for us.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. Who you got to bring with you? Your mom? Where's your mom at? And what's her name?
Over there. Her name is Renee.
Okay, and this is Renee. This is mom of both Gabe and Ben. Thank you both for doing the Pledge of Allegiance. We appreciate you and continue to be good students, okay? And good luck on getting those badges. All right, thank you. Mom, I know those young men have some homework and they're ready to go, get ready to earn those badges. So if you need to leave, feel free to go. Thanks again for coming. Okay, next we have community reflections. Anyone? No? Go back. Reverend Walker.
Today I had the opportunity to go to Akron U, and a group of faith-based persons gathered with the president, and we've been working at supporting the college students, particularly minority community, but also keeping our eye on our students as they are moving closer and closer and closer to achieving their goals and eventually going to college, and how we can make college ready for them. And then also looking at the bar, what's expected of those young people, their GPA or their ACT scores that they might need to meet to go to traditional schools, and how can we help them to get there? Because Akron U has the largest or second largest African American enrollment, but when you look on the other end, it's extremely disappointing. The graduation rate is very, very low. So we've got to begin to get our children ready for the opportunities that are going to be available to them through the LeBron James Family Foundation, through our own scholarships, so that they'll be ready to take advantage of those, not to just get in, but to finish. And just like we're doing here at Mr. Black and other staff, preparing our high school students, not to just get into high school, but to finish high school, and to do well and be prepared for that post-high school work. And then Friday, I know Mrs. Walsh and I got a chance to go to Summit Court, Todd McKinney's court, where the STEM school unveiled a lovely mural, had several individual pieces where the students worked together to portray the various activities and life of the Akron community. So you had pictures of various historical activities that occurred during the history of Akron, and the STEM students helped to make that possible, the staff and teachers. So it was very good, very nice picture. And then I also got to go to the girls' championship basketball game, which was an exciting game. Unfortunately, towards the end, some things happened that we never want to see happen at our games. But I want to commend our staff, commend our, is it yellow jacket persons that we call them? Yellow coats, who did an excellent job working along with the uniformed police officers to make a situation that was not a riot, to make a situation, they got it under control rather quickly, very, very quickly. And you saw some of our personnel in the papers assisting the students and making sure that everybody was taken care of. So I want to commend them for the fine work. The principals of both schools, the coaches of both schools, and even the players themselves, who did an excellent job of carrying themselves in a way that we would have been proud of, even in the midst of the situation that occurred after the game.
And I'll echo, because I was at the game also, and I do believe that that was the thing that hit me. I was very impressed with the speed with which the Akron Public Schools had the situation under control and took care of everything. And one of the things that I'd like to point out that I feel bad that we missed out on, because I bought a program, and I do realize that something I wasn't aware of, that we have a coaches academic all-city team. There were 27 students on that who all had a grade point average of 3.4 or above, going up to a 4.5. We had all 7 schools represented. We had 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th graders. It was very impressive, and I don't know if they were going to announce it at the end, but I think that that was a very positive thing that did go on at that, and we don't get credit for that, especially after what happened at the end of the game happened. But I agree. I think it was handled very quickly and expeditiously. The other thing that I did, I attended the Founders Day banquet for the PTA, and that was a very excellent event. I also attended Judge McKinney's court unveiling, and I did also go to the STEM, the science, technology, and math, and that was a fabulous event, and the students did wonderful. I walked through some of the exhibits. I've now learned, though, that I need to go not at 1:30. I need to go like in the morning, because I wanted to see the bridges get broken, and I was too late for all of that. So next year I will know that part of it goes on long before we show up, based on the invitation. So I thought that was a great event, and I even attended something for, because I'm in the Elliott cluster, so there was a fundraiser for hire slicing up freshmen at Arby's, which I'm going to guess was well attended, because people were there were going, what's going on? I've never had a line. I've never had to wait to get my food. So there were a lot of people there, and so hopefully it was a success for what was going on with that. And then I also was able to attend the Akron Roundtable, where Mayor Horrigan was discussing everything. I'm just a disappointment that I don't think he mentioned the Akron Public Schools, but otherwise it was a busy week.
Sounds
2 weeks.
like it, yes.
Just to echo on Miss Walsh's thoughts there on the academic team. I know the Beacon Journal has cut back a lot on, they don't even put the regular all-city teams in anymore, which is bad. But to be good enough to make all-city and make all-academic all-city is an achievement, and I was more proud of my son for making that than making the all-city team. And I think that we, if we can in some way, try to publicate, I don't know if that's a word, or get more word out there on those academic teams. I mean, that those kids do work hard. They practice 5-6 days a week and still get the good grades and everything. And also, as I've been making my rounds, not only in my cluster, but to some of the other areas, stopped at Booktool a few times, and then going to attend their thing tomorrow night before another engagement I have, and I was going to get with Patrick about this, because I think you have that cluster, right? Is that part of your cluster? And let you know some of the things that they conveyed to me, and as far as finishing up the athletic complex there, they've suffered a long time. They've had one of the top track programs in the city for so many years, and those kids running on that cinder track, and I sure would like to try to work with Pat and whoever else is involved in that. And I did talk to somebody down here about that, and would like to take a close look at that. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Ms. Mansfield?
I also was at the Akron Roundtable and felt the same as Ms. Walsh. I do know that the superintendent was active with the Blue Ribbon Panel and that, so I know that our voice is being heard, but we do want to make sure that we continue that relationship with the city and hope that we continue to be mentioned and welcomed to the round table or square table or whatever table they've got. And the science fair was quite good this year. It was the 60th anniversary, and Katrina, as usual, went above and beyond the call. I call her a force of nature every time I see her, and it's true. She says it's like a wedding. She plans it and plans it and plans it. They did a great job, and I did get to go for the first time to the bridges, and that is a lot of fun. If you've never seen that, they did a great job with that as well. And we had so many students who walked away with cash awards as well this year. So that was impressive, and quite a few who had numerous awards and really had some fantastic. It's going to be great to see what happens at the districts and how they end up doing. Just wanted to put out a reminder that it's just about in the rounds time. I know that Ms. Gijic is probably working hard with the Fine Arts Department also to get those all planned. We start next week with all the high school band in the round, choirs in the rounds, strings in the round, all those in the rounds. And then the middle school is the week after. So if you're looking at your calendar, those are great to get to. They will liven up a cold and dreary February day.
I believe everyone got a couple of tickets.
Yes, I think we did. And also this Saturday at Bookdale High School, hosted by Bookdale as well as Firestone, is the area OMEA competition for solo and ensemble. We brought it to Akron last year, and due to the parking issues and construction at Firestone partially, no?
No,
Or was it?
it will be at Firestone. It's the March event that will be at Bookville.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay, then I'm going to the wrong place with my child. So I will be changing my calendar. Oh, so it's the March one that's at Bookdale.
Yes, that is.
Thank you, Deb. I'm so glad you were right across from me. I saw her head going, no. Okay, so this one is at Firestone.
Yes, that is.
And then the March event is at Bookdale. So if you want to come hear some fantastic music, this one is solo and ensemble. Is that small?
Yes,
Small.
solo and ensemble is this week. The large group and large band is the one in
Is the
March,
one at
and that's why it's at.
Oh, that makes complete sense.
Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, so yeah, that would be a much bigger issue because that's all buses and parents
That
and
is correct.
insanity. Okay, fantastic. So I apologize for the confusion, and now I know which school to go to on Saturday. But lots of great things happening, and you know, there's no excuse to be home and bored or depressed on a February night. Lots to do.
Anyone else? Mr. Miller, sir?
A lot of what I did has been talked about already, but a couple different things I did. I was honored to be an adjudicator at a regional DECA competition at the University of Akron. Patrick was there as well. I got to role play and be a parking deck mogul and listen to my underlings present to me how to make more money with my parking deck. So I was impressed. I got to adjudicate students from Akron, Stowe, Barberton, I forget the other city, but anyways, throughout Summit County. It was an enjoyable morning. I love doing those things. I've done some for Rich Messenger and other business associations as well. Those are always enjoyable. I did want to say that the 60th anniversary of the Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math Expo. I think when I was a kid that was science fair, but to show my age. But that is always an enjoyable time, and I always sort of jokingly tell people, if you want to go shake 400 cold and clammy hands, come up on stage with us. It's an experience, but I jest. It's fun giving those kids those awards. And then lastly, I was at our Business Advisory Council meeting, and just something we're working on, David's working on anyways, is sort of a reconstitution of the Business Advisory Council with having some different focuses on the medical track, information technology track, and manufacturing track within the Akron Public Schools, bringing in our experts from our business community to give us some advice and some direction on how to get more of our business community involved with the Akron Public Schools. So I think it's a great idea, and I hope we're successful at that.
Anything else? I'll save mine for the President's report. Is Mr. Thompson available? Alex Thompson, request to speak to the board. Alex Thompson, request to speak to the board. No? Okay, well, we'll move on. Approval of meeting minutes for a regular meeting on January 25th, 2016.
Second.
Been moved and second. Any question? Roll call?
Mrs. Mansfield?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Otto?
Yes.
Reverend Walker?
Yes.
Ms. Walsh?
Abstain on 34, but yes. Otherwise.
Thank you. Mr. Alexander?
Yes.
Mr. Bravo?
Yes.
Superintendent's recommendations.
Mr. President, I have before me for your consideration 35 personnel recommendations. These recommendations are in proper form, and I move their approval.
So moved.
It's been moved and second. Any question? No questions. Roll call?
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Otterman?
Yes.
Reverend Walker?
Yes, abstains from item 33.
Ms. Walsh?
Now I need to abstain on 34. I jumped the gun. My apologies.
Duly noted.
Otherwise, yes.
Mr. Alexander?
Yes.
Mr. Bravo?
Yes, abstain from item 30.
Mrs. Mansfield?
Yes, abstaining from item 31.
And just to point out, Mr. President, in item number 35, we regret to report the death of William Stanley, who was a custodial worker at East CLC on January 19th. He had been an employee of the district for 35 years.
Yeah, let's keep his family and he in prayer. Okay.
Next, Mr. President, I have before me for your consideration 2 motions and 6 resolutions on the consent agenda. These recommendations are in proper form, and I move their approval.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Any question? Any question? Roll call?
Mr. Otterman?
Yes.
Reverend Walker?
Yes.
Ms. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Alexander?
Yes.
Mr. Bravo?
Yes.
Mrs. Mansfield?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
And finally, Mr. President, I have before me for your consideration 11 business affairs recommendations. These recommendations are in proper form, and I move their approval.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and second. Any question? No question. Roll call?
Reverend Walker?
Yes.
Ms. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Alexander?
Yes.
Mr. Bravo?
Yes.
Mrs. Mansfield?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Otterman?
Yes.
Superintendent's report. It's not really a report, but maybe some, commentary. I know, it was a very unfortunate incident that happened at our girls' City Series Championship basketball game, and I just, want to assure board members that We have ample board policies, administrative guidelines, and Ohio High School Athletic Association rules to deal with unfortunate situations like that. And so, in addition to working with the City of Akron Police Department, certainly, you know, our staff are trained, as Reverend Walker said, to handle those issues. We have really worked very hard to improve our athletic, you know, department and contests. And while this may be just a minor blip on the screen, for, you know, regarding some irresponsible actions of a few people, the majority of our games are fully enjoyed by the public and our students. And we will continue to promote, you know, that sportsmanship across the district and all of our athletic programs.
Okay. Mr. Ogden?
President, Mr. James, you know, I don't know if the quotes in the paper were correct. I wasn't at the game. Maybe Ms. Walsh or Mr. Reverend Walker would be able to chime in on this. But it said coaches and you know, parents and players were involved in the altercation. Is that correct? Or
I think our coaches were there trying to stop the
Yes.
altercation
Yeah, and that's
along
exactly
with.
I mean,
what they were doing.
that wasn't what was portrayed, and I know a few of those coaches, and you know, and I was kind of surprised when I read that, because it made, because I had people come up to me and say, you know, the coaches were involved in that.
Right.
It says I don't know, I wasn't there, and I'd be finding out. But that's good to hear that. But again, it's unfortunate, but something that doesn't usually happen, and it's
Exactly.
usually a good,
Right.
we got good programs.
And I think there's another case of perception, and unfortunately, the way that article was written,
Yes.
saying it was a riot, it was so fast, anyone could hope that a riot would be that fast. I mean, you
Right.
don't want it to run, because I don't think a riot was actually the right term to use. And then the caption under one of the photos said that they're storming onto the court. Well, those were the people that were just celebrating. They were seated on the first seat of the bleachers. They're getting out to congratulate the person. They were not storming the court. So a lot of the adjectives used
Yes.
were just the wrong adjectives, and created a perception for people that was not the reality of what happened that night. I mean, the reality of there was a terrible event, and it is a black eye, and it was a bad thing. But the way it was handled was exemplary, and again, the people involved should be applauded for how they handled it, and handled it without.
It was 30 seconds.
Don't you agree? I mean, it was.
Wholeheartedly, yeah, I agree. And I do want to commend the Beacon Journal. I noticed that the articles after, they did not use the word
I was out of
riot.
town, so I apologize. I did not see
They
it.
said a fight or a skirmish.
Okay.
The language was toned down. So I don't know if having conversation with the superintendent or others, that they sort of chose a different way to describe what actually happened, which should have happened in the beginning. That should have been done.
You would have believed that they were calling in the National Guard and everything. I mean, it's the way that it was wrote the first time.
Okay, any other comments? Okay, President's report. I'm just going to say a couple things, and I'll save the rest for the next meeting. As mentioned earlier, we did go to the PTA event. I wanted to say to parents, please, parents, get involved with PTA. We need you to be involved. We need you to be there at the schools to assist, but we need you most of all, to be there with your kids. That's a great way to get to know teachers and staff in the schools that your kids are attending. So please get out and participate. If you need to know more about it, you can get in touch with the principal of the schools, or you can get in touch with whomever the PTA president is of that school. So please do that. At the event also, there was an outstanding educator award, and the young lady's name was Tara Klossman of Boris. She is a first-year teacher. She's a graduate of Akron Public Schools of Firestone, and she is already making an impact on thinking outside the box as a teacher and doing well with her students. So we want to congratulate her and definitely highlight her because she is an Akron Public Schools graduate. So we wanted to do that. Also, a gentleman who's always been involved, and he's been here at board meetings, who won the award for community recognition, to Jeremy Lyle. We wanted to congratulate him because he's always been involved. I met Jeremy some years ago, and Jeremy was always involved with what he can do to help Akron Public Schools. His kids attend Akron Public Schools. He wanted to make sure they were involved, and he and his wife were involved, and they're really involved with PTA and all in the school. So we wanted to make sure we congratulate him. And I wanted to thank the PTA president, Beth Sindelbach, and Vice President Beth Stanley, because they did an outstanding job. They're very hard workers, concerned a lot with parents and our students. They give a lot of their own personal time, and I wanted to thank them so very much for what they're doing, and encourage others to get out to support them. And last of all, well, next to last of all, Patrick Bravo, our own Vice President, received an award as well from the PTA on his him being so involved with the schools and the system, and caring for our kids. And that's what we need. The most important thing is we need to be able to care for the students that we work with. If we don't care about our kids, then it's probably the wrong place for us to be. So make sure that we continue to make sure that we involve with kids. And Patrick, we thank you and congratulations on your award. The last thing I'm going to say, and I'm going to save the rest for later, is one of our unit principals who works very hard with the students, really care about the students. She's been very sick. That's Karen Cox, who's been very sick, very ill. She's currently at home. I don't know exactly how her health is, so I don't want to say. So can we please keep her and her family in our prayers, because they can use it, and she is a very dedicated individual to the kids and Akron Public Schools, and we want to make sure we keep her in prayer. Okay, that's all for President's report. Treasurer's report.
2 items for the board tonight. The first is a meeting we just wrapped up a few minutes before the board meeting, is the annual audit of WAPS, our post-audit meeting. Just a quick review there. We received an unmodified opinion. It's the highest opinion that we can receive from the state. Mr. Bruno and his team there had a few highlights that are provided to you in email. Those highlights during the fiscal year 2015, the State of Ohio Award for Advocacy Supporting Long-Term Recovery, the State of Ohio Auditor of State Award Exemplary Financial Reporting, United Way, Inside Business Magazine Pinnacle Award, Margaret Clark Morgan Foundation Impact Award Innovation, and Akron Life Magazine Best Radio Station. Mr. Bruno and his team are great to work with. I'd also like to highlight Mr. Todd Atkins. He's really a gem for my staff and for APS. He performs all of the GAAP accounting work internally. A lot of districts hire that work out for private consultants, so we're really fortunate there. Second item tonight, I received a lot of questions both from employees, community, board members alike about the Huntington First Merit Bank merger. And just from my perspective and due diligence, I thought I'd hit a few highlights and let you know what I'm doing with my staff. Huntington Bank, just for your information, is about a $71 billion organization, where First Merit's about $25 billion. So this merger, I think, has been very cordial from the folks that I've talked to. I talked to our rep, who's the head of governmental banking. So I've been in contact with him. I've been assured that no changes will take place in 2016. Well, it's a good comfort area. There's still some federal regulations that has to go through. It still has to be approved. That approval process is between now and September. And so I'm asking the question, what happens after September, and what do we need to do to prepare ourselves if there's any change whatsoever? And so I'll be pulling all of our depository agreements, not only for First Merit, but for all of our banks, and reviewing all those, presenting the Finance Committee if there's any changes in those, or maybe it's a time that we just automatically go ahead and renew all of those agreements moving forward. I'll be presenting those hopefully between now and the summer to the board. That will give us the control and authority we need if there's ever a point in time where we have to make a change. Akron Public Schools would be protected, our employees would be protected. Not only do we do a large or the primary amount of banking with APS bank accounts, but all of our employees have a lot of their bank accounts. So kind of two-pronged, taking this due diligence on their behalf and for the boards. I think that's it. Unless you have any questions?
Question?
Yeah, I would hope, just to say briefly, I would hope that we monitor the situation as far as what they're going to do with jobs and branches, and if they're going to be a good citizen to the people of Akron and Akron Public Schools and the area as a whole. You know, if we're going to have investments in that bank, you know, obviously we don't want to lose money or do anything that would be detrimental to the health and welfare of the district, but we need to keep a close eye on how they're treating the existing employees and in the branches in the certain neighborhoods that might be the only available outlet for a lot of people. So just would like to mention that.
Any questions or comments? Treasurer? Okay, before we go on to committee reports, I failed to do something. On the 60th anniversary for the Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math Expo, they did give us some gifts, and we need to thank them for it. They gave us bottled water here with the Akron Public School label on 60-year anniversary, and they gave us another little gift here that has, I believe this is hand soap and I can't see what the other is, and lotion. So we want to thank them for the gift and make sure that we continue to support them and our kids. Committee reports, legal, contract, and board policy. Okay. No report?
We have a meeting coming up.
Yes. Okay. Finance and capital management.
Yes, I actually need to continue the report from 2 weeks ago. I failed to mention and talk about our investment review and investment report for the school district. Some of the highlights, the biggest highlight for me is we're projecting gross income of somewhere around $473,000 in the future here in the next 12-month time period, I believe it is, of the 3 different portfolios that we have. And that compares to our former investment strategy, which would have netted us or grossed somewhere around $83 million for the money we have on hand. So, and just to put everybody's fears at ease, these are still good, solid government-backed bonds and investments. This is not anything that's speculative, if you will. I think it's interesting if you look at the portfolio yield that we got over the last quarter. 2 of the 3 increased. The one that decreased by 0.03% from the quarter before. I know myself and many of my friends wish that we had this return over the last 12-month time period. You know, there's something to be said about being conservative in your investments and not being too aggressive. But very good news for the Akron Public Schools, and that just gives us more cash flow to put money in the classrooms.
Great.
I don't know if you have anything to add.
No, and I really don't, but I love the difference. I love the comparison of the difference between just what we would have done under the old policy and just sort of, you know, it's easy sometimes in committee to not really look at things that have been in place for so long, and then you stumble upon something and you say, well, let's take a fresh look at that. I mean, had we not, you know, pushed for that, I mean, it's just money that you're leaving on the table, and I'm glad to see that it's paying off and that there really is a difference between the two.
Okay, thank you very much. Instructional policy and student achievement.
We do have a report, and we would have had a report on the Brookville New Tech presentation this evening, but the interim principal became ill, so that will be rescheduled with Tracy Buckner, Director of Specialty Programs, along with Norma James, the interim principal at Brookville. But we had other work that we were doing in committee, and at our meeting on Friday the 5th, we reviewed important improvements on ODE's graduation rules that Ellen had just received during an Ohio 8 meeting on Thursday. Dr. McWilliam Woods and Mr. Black, Mark Black, will give us a more detailed report next month. But a few highlights are as follows. OGT testing. More flexibility for juniors, seniors, and non-graduates who haven't yet passed the OGT. They will now be able to take advantage of the same flexible options offered to sophomores and younger students, e.g. if they score a remediation-free benchmark on the ACT, they can substitute this score for the OGT. If they reach a state-required benchmark score on their career exams and receive a career credential, they can substitute this score for the OGT. And this is good news, for our students, gives them more options to succeed. So we want to thank Mr. Black and Dr. McWilliams Woods for attending that meeting.
And more on that, the State Board of Education voted last month to begin the process to revise our math and English standards. Before you had the first reaction that I had, which was, oh my gosh, we just bought all these books. What are they going to do now? It's just a normal process, and they've promised and assured the school districts that these should be minor revisions and not anything major like the last time around. And some other news, the retakes for Ohio high school state tests. The ODE released new guidance for students retaking high school end of course exams and the impact of those on our local report cards. Dr. McWilliams Woods and Mark Black will be studying the new guidance and will bring recommendations to the board on whether we need to change any policies in the coming months. One of the most important things that's going to happen out of all these changes is how to find ways to communicate all this new flexibility to our students and parents and guardians. It's not an easy task because there have been so many changes recently. We've got kids graduating right now who are on OGT. We've got kids coming up and coming in that are under the end of course exams. So that was a big enough thing to explain. But now not only do we have to explain, yes, you've taken your OGT, but if you haven't passed, here are some other alternatives. So those nice brochures that our local communications people have been working so hard on now have some extra addendums that will have to be added. And so they'll be working hard to get that done. And so those changes will be explained, and there's sure to be more changes over the next 6 months, so stay tuned.
So something I didn't get to ask during, but I wanted to, when you mentioned the retakes on the end of year, end of course exams, is there any opportunity to revisit their changes in the retakes that we discussed? That it may be opposite of what we would have liked to see as far as whether or not they count against you and when, or is there any effort to revisit that, or that's kind of a done deal?
No, I think that's the last line of Mrs. Mansfield's report, that I'm sure there'll be changes over these next 6 months. I think the discussion that we had at the Ohio 8 meeting with the Ohio Department of Education was that there's going to be some unintended consequences that will happen when students retake the exams, if that ends up negatively impacting the report card. The unfortunate thing is then there's kind of a disincentive for kids to continue to retake the test. So I'm sure that with lobbying efforts from us and from the Ohio 8 and other superintendents, they'll keep looking at those report card implications. The report card piece is going to be shifting over the next 6 months just because of the No Child Left Behind reauthorization and the waiver as well. So if we can get the lobbying efforts successful, we'll see some of the changes happen.
Questions, concerns? If not, we'll move to unfinished business. Any unfinished business? Yes.
This may not be the correct place, but I did want to highlight, Mr. James and I got a chance to go to our new placement of our maintenance department, is it? Or Energy and Environment. They had a luncheon for many of our maintenance staff, electricians, plumbers, all the persons who make sure that buildings run smoothly. In talking with them, one of the surprising things was that it costs more to operate our new buildings. We've actually seen where some of the new buildings, if you remember, we had to replace a boiler in a new building, a CLC. And the reason for some of that is we've been using the buildings more. There's been more activity taking place in the buildings, and unfortunately, new things don't last as long as the old things used to last. But those persons in those areas, particularly the electricians area, where I think there may have been at one time 30 or
58 staff members.
58 staff members and a larger number of electricians than we have now, we almost have maybe half are still doing an excellent job in maintaining, our buildings. And for them, it's all this technology now that they've got to learn and come to speed with to make sure that they keep the buildings in good repair. So I just want to commend them for their work that they're doing, the staff, the department heads. Some of those persons have been in those areas for over 40 years, 30 and 40 years, doing a fine job to keep us in good stead.
Imagine how the technology's changed
Yeah.
over the years.
Yeah. All right, new business. Any new business? No new business? Okay. Well, we're going to need to go into executive session, so pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 121.22 G1, I hereby move that the board adjourn to executive session for the purpose of considering employment. It's been moved and second. Roll call?
Ms. Walsh?
Yes.
Mr. Alexander?
Yes.
Mr. Bravo?
Yes.
Mrs. Mansfield?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mr. Otterman?
Yes.
Reverend Walker?
Yes.